Hello everyone, I'm Krista Karsick, a member of the Mon Valley Railroad Historical Society of Morgantown, West Virginia. I'd like to introduce you to a new series here on our YouTube channel where we take a look at the history of railroads that surround our region. Railroad history around north central West Virginia runs very deep. With the B&O's initial route from Baltimore to Wheeling via Grafton, West Virginia, to the area's own regional road, the Monongahela Railway, there's a fascinating railroad story that often gets overlooked. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at Morgantown's own railroad, the Baltimore and Ohio, specifically the Fairmont, Morgantown, and Pittsburgh Subdivision, better known as the FM&P. Before we talk about the FM&P, let's take a brief glance at the B&O itself. The B&O was the first common carrier railroad established in the United States. The B&O's history is greatly tied to West Virginia as it crossed the northern part of the state to reach Wheeling. After reaching Cumberland in 1842, construction continued west along the Allegheny Mountains through some very tough terrain until reaching Grafton. From there, it continued along, reaching Wheeling and the Ohio River on January 1st, 1853. Now, that's the B&O history in a very condensed format. The B&O's story would take hours upon untold hours to tell, and that's not the objective of today's video. But now that we know a little bit about how the B&O got here, let's take a look at what it means to us in the region. The B&O reached Morgantown through the Fairmont, Morgantown, and Pittsburgh Railroad Company. As was the norm way back when, railroads would either financially support another smaller road to build a route, or they would just gain control and or purchase the road outright and take over, thus increasing the size of the company. This route would follow the Monongahela River from Fairmont to Point Marion, Pennsylvania, leaving the nice, flat river grade and climbing uphill toward Uniontown via Smithfield, and then ultimately to Connellsville at a location called Green Junction. The area was ripe with untapped coal fields, and in the rapidly expanding industrial United States, coal was a cash cow. Morgantown became an important location on the FM&P after the construction of the Morgantown and Kingwood, better known as the M&K, in 1907. Coal and aggregate coming out from along Decker's Creek combined with coal, coke, and glass made up most of the tonnage coming off the FM&P. As the B&O expanded, the route became sort of a cutoff between the Parkersburg main line and the main line across the Allegheny Mountains, Sand Patch. It offered an alternate route in case of derailments, congestion, or other problems the railroad might encounter. The FM&P was a popular route among rail fans as well. It became known as the sheepskin to locals, rail fans, and railroaders. Two stories attempt to explain this nickname. Farmers along the route used to call the trains skinners, as the trains would scatter their flocks of sheep when they would pass. Another story I heard was that a train hit a herd of sheep one night, and then that grisly name stuck. But as beloved as the sheepskin was for rail fans, it wasn't going to last forever. The last revenue passenger trains ran on September 25, 1953, as the advent of the interstate highway system and air travel began to slowly kill the railroad passenger business. Mines began closing, industry started to dwindle, and the glass factories around Morgantown closed. The FM&P continued to host trains through the chassis system era and into the CSX days. Sometime in 1990, a landslide occurred between Fairmont and Morgantown, and some say that's what killed the FM&P for good. CSX exercised the trackage rights already in place with the Monongahela Railway across the river. They could run trains from Fairmont, up along the Mon River to Newell, and then back to home rails on the former Pittsburgh and Lake Erie. In the early 1990s, parts of the FM&P were ripped up. The line was removed from Reevesville, West Virginia to Smithfield, Pennsylvania. Today, the Southwest Pennsylvania Railroad operates the remaining portion from Smithfield to Connellsville. Between Reevesville and Point Marion, the FM&P lives on as part of the rail trail system. You can still find old whistle posts and the concrete phone booths along the right-of-way, relics of a once important West Virginia rail artery. I'll always have a soft spot for the FM&P, particularly around Morgantown. My dad spent a lot of time photographing trains here, and that ultimately fueled my love of trains. His stories of riding the M&K Helper and helping service engines as a kid down at the Morgantown Depot make this an important place for me, and I'm sure others who lived in town and spent time around the railroad will agree as well. That concludes our brief lesson and look into the B&O's Fairmont, Morgantown, and Pittsburgh Subdivision. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a little something about our regional rail history. If you want to follow our channel and get more rail history content and updates on our model railroad progress, please subscribe. If you'd like to donate to the Mon Valley Railroad Historical Society, we greatly appreciate the support. You can find us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/mvrrhs. The link will also be provided in the description below. A thank you to traillink.com for information on the FM&P sub and to Wikipedia for the important dates in B&O history. Take care everyone, and we'll see you next time.